This is the defendant lobby, all right. But there's no defendant. I've been trying to reach Lana all morning. Where could she be? And where's Emma, for that matter? It almost seems as if... Oh, who the heck is this? Maybe Edgeworth? Something's been happening behind the scenes. Oh, it is Edgeworth! I called it right. Edgeworth! Knowing you, you've already figured it out. Who the owner of the 7777777 ID number is, that is. Well, I have a pretty strong hunch. Looks like I'm not the only one who's figured it out. You know, the only reason this trial didn't reach a verdict yesterday is because there was still room for doubt regarding this ID record. And also, you know, the fact that everyone was in an uproar over Lana's statement. If that number does belong to whom you suspect, then no doubt will remain. After all, he hasn't been officially charged with anything. True, not yet. In any event, once all doubt has been removed from that list, I can call for a ruling. 5 minutes, Wright, and Chief Prosecutor Skye will be found guilty. But she didn't do it! I figured you'd say as much. That's why I came here, to hear what you have to say. This is the first time he's ever done something like this. Lana's hiding something, and the only way we'll ever know the truth is to draw it out of her. The truth? Everything goes back to the SL9 incident. Don't be stupid. Today's the last day of the trial. We don't have time to reminisce about the past. That depends on you. If she's found guilty, you'll lose your only chance to find out what really happened. I'll think about it. See you in court, Wright. This is it. If I'm ever going to find out what Chief Gant has on her, it's now. Court is now in session for the trial of Miss Lana Skye. The defense is ready, Your Honor. The prosecution is ready, Your Honor. Normally, this is when the prosecution puts forth its opening statement. But before that, the police chief has a proposal to make. Chief Gant! Morning, folks! How's everyone doing? Hey, Udgy, been back to the pool yet? No, I've been drowning enough as it is in my work. That's a good one. I don't think I can top that. If you don't mind me asking, Chief, exactly what is this proposal of yours? Lana, that is to say, the defendant, has asked me if she could speak directly to the court. She wants to do what? Having heard what she intends to say, I feel she should be granted her request. In the end, it should save everyone a lot of time and trouble. What's this all about, defendant? I'd just like to make one simple request, and I'll be finished. Well then, what's your request? Your Honor, I'd like you to put an immediate end to this trial. Huh? I confess to all charges against me. On February 21st of this year, I murdered Detective Bruce Goodman in the underground parking lot of the prosecutor's office. No! Lana! You can't! Your Honor, the defense claim does not change the defense's plea. In that case, Mr. Wright, I no longer require your services. But Lana! Your Honor, I hereby forfeit my right to an attorney. The prosecution may lack direct evidence against me, but it has sufficiently proven its case through testimony and circumstantial evidence. I would like you to render your verdict now, if you please. Huh. Well, the defendant certainly has the right to self-representation. The request is legally valid, though this is an unprecedented situation. Indeed, it appears there's no further need to continue this trial, even if Mr. Wright may feel otherwise. This can't be happening! It appears the time for the verdict has arrived. This court finds the defendant. Objection! One moment, Your Honor. Mr. Edgeworth? The prosecution has not yet proven the defendant guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Any ruling at this stage would certainly be premature. Come now, Worthy. I understand this is a difficult time for you, but why don't you just be a good little boy and keep your mouth shut? Huh. I don't think I care for your tone, Chief Gant. What? Creating another fabrication to cover up your past mistakes. Sorry, but I'm no longer the naive little boy you would have me be. With this sudden confession from the defendant, it's obvious to me some kind of deal was struck behind the scenes. Some kind of deal, Not everyone operates as you do, Worthy. Huh. I thought so. Your Honor, the prosecution would like to change its first witness. Oh? To whom? As its first witness, the prosecution would like to call Miss Emma Skye. I request the court hears her testimony. Mr. Edgeworth, I am exercising my right to self-representation. I don't think we need to I don't care what you have to think, Miss Skye. The exposure of truth sometimes results in tragedy. However, no matter how tragic the truth may be, it would be an even greater tragedy to avert one's eyes from it. Man, Edgeworth's pulling a Persona 4 on us! Very well. The court shall grant the prosecution's request. That's okay with you, right, Chief Gant? Worthy. You'll live to regret this. Mark my words. Miss Emma Skye, please take the stand! Looks like Edgeworth has decided to take the horse by the reins. Now then, witness, please state your name and occupation. My name is Emma? Emma Skye? My occupation? I'm Lana's little sister, and I want to be a scientific investigator. 2 years ago, you encountered the serial killer, Joe Dark, of the Joe Dark killings. Is this correct? Yes. I'm trying my hardest to forget about that, though. I'm sorry, but I'm afraid I'm going to have to ask you to recall those events one more time. Mr. Edgeworth, please remember this trial concerns the murder of Detective Goodman. Is an incident that was resolved 2 years ago really all that relevant? Yes, it most certainly is. Well, okay then. You sure gave in fast! Now, please testify about what happened to you 2 years ago. The trip to yesteryear has finally begun. It's bound to lead to the truth behind this trial. Alright, let's see what Emma has to say.
I was waiting in my sister's office that day. A man came running in and took me hostage. Neil Marshall rescued me, but I'll never forget what I saw in that instant. The man raised up his knife and stabbed Mr. Marshall in the chest.
It's a good thing you weren't harmed.
I passed out. I don't remember much.
That's understandable. However, please tell me, Mr. Edgeworth, what does this testimony have to do with Detective Goodman's murder? That will soon become apparent, Your Honor. You've got to admire him for his courage, considering he has no evidence! Very well. The defense may begin its cross-examination. Okay, so now we have to try to find something up with Emma's testimony. Waiting in my sister's office, man came running in, Neil Marshall rescued me, I forget what I saw, raised his knife and stabbed Goodman. Alright, well, nothing more we can do, so let's just press everything. 2 years ago, the defendant was a detective at the police department, correct?
Yes. She was second in command under then Deputy Chief of Police Gant. My sister. She was the best detective ever!
Yes, I remember. Deputy Chief Gant and Miss Skye used to be quite the pair. I believe they shared the same office.
That's right. I'd always sit at my sister's desk and dream about playing that organ. I wanted to play it that day, too.
The police department and the prosecutor's office held a ceremony that day.
Lana promised to take me to dinner after she finished her work.
Okay, man came running in and took me hostage. A man?
Yes, Joe Dark. He was, a serial killer.
Joe Dark was brought in for questioning on the day of that ceremony. We were desperate to get anything on him that would lead to an arrest. When he saw his chance, he fled the room, right? Upon fleeing the room, Dark proceeded to take the elevator. He must have been in a panic because the elevator was going up. Then he ran into Skye and Gant's office.
There was a lot of noise coming from outside, so I opened up the door to have a look. That's when I saw him.
Neil Marshall rescued me. That's very brief. What was the prosecutor doing there? That day, there were 2 people present during Dark's questioning. Deputy Chief Damon Gant and Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Almost forgot about Gant. Neil Marshall had just received the King of Prosecutors Award. Young and dedicated, he went straight to the questioning room after the ceremony. I assume that would also be why he was the first to run after Dark.
When Dark grabbed me, I thought I was as good as dead.
And that's when Prosecutor Marshall came running in?
I don't clearly remember what happened then, but...
Never forget what I saw in that instant.
Can you tell us about that? Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. Just then, the lights went out.
The lights?
It was just about this time of year. There was a terrible storm going on, and lightning struck nearby.
So the electricity went out. Wait a minute. If it was pitch dark in that room, you shouldn't have been able to see anything, right?
Right, but just then lightning flashed again outside. That sudden flash left an unforgettable image of the scene in my mind.
I see.
I told the detective about what I saw then.
The detective?
Yes, Detective Goodman. He was in charge of the case.
Detective Bruce Goodman, the victim. Definitely hear more about this. So you spoke with Detective Goodman about this 2 years ago?
Yes. That's what's so scary about this trial.
and you told Detective Goodman about what you saw.
Yes, but at the time, the words just wouldn't come out. That's why I drew a picture.
A picture? Yes, I think she mentioned that before. Well, Mr. Wright, have you heard enough? Ask about the picture. Absolutely ask about the picture!
This picture the witness drew, I believe it has a very important meaning.
But the list of evidence I was given 2 years ago didn't contain a picture. Witness, would you mind if we added this statement to your testimony?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, I drew a picture of that scene once, but it seems to have been lost. You drew a picture of the scene you witnessed, right?
Yes, I wanted to do everything I could to help the investigation. I can still see it now, whenever I close my eyes.
That's strange. I took over the case after Prosecutor Marshall died, yet I never received any picture. Perhaps the witness is mistaken?
But I did draw it, I swear! I'm not just imagining it.
This picture that Emma drew, that reminds me. I guess I should check the evidence again. Well, anyway, let's continue. The scene that imprinted an image in your mind. Can you please describe it to us?
The man?
Okay, let's maybe at least press this so we can get a little bit more info, and then we can show him the evidence. That must have been a real shock.
Even now, when I close my eyes, I can still see it just as clearly.
Tell us, what were you doing at that moment? I believe you testified that Joe Dark was holding you hostage.
When lightning struck and the lights went out, Mr. Marshall jumped on Dark. I was thrown aside and the two began wrestling each other. I'm pretty sure I was watching them.
Emma doesn't have any reason to lie, but Lana sure does. I need to get Emma to tell me as much about this as she can. Okay, we already know what exactly we need to show. I drew a picture of that scene once, but it seems to have been lost. What we need is the evidence list, because the evidence list is the picture that was drawn. Mr. Edgeworth, this little girl put all her heart into drawing that picture. And yet you would insist on denying its existence? Huh? Hey, I'm not the bad guy! All I'm saying is that the prosecutor for that case, I wasn't handed such a picture. That may well be, but that doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Behold! This is the evidence list for the SL9 incident? Please turn it over, Your Honor. Turn it over? Turn it... Ah! What is this? Yes, what is that?
Hey, that's it! That's the picture I drew!
Indeed! Two men appear to be wrestling here. What's the meaning of this? What are you doing with that list? Me? Only the prosecutor in charge should have access to that list. Huh. These lists, they're different from each other. What? It would appear, Mr. Edgeworth, that the evidence list you were handed 2 years ago was incomplete. These two lists fit together to form one. You can see the marks here where they were torn apart from each other. So you see, Mr. Edgeworth, it's quite obvious what happened. 2 years ago, only half of the evidence in that case ever reached you. What? What? Order! Order! But, Miss Sky, why did you draw your picture on the back of such an important list?
Because that's what Detective Goodman handed me in the questioning room, Your Honor.
Wait a minute.
If this list was torn in half, then that means...
Your Honor! Are you alright, Mr. Wright? Your eyes are bulging from your head.
If the evidence list was torn in half,
then there might be more of the drawing on the back of Mr. Edgeworth's list. Yes, that's quite conceivable. Mr. Edgeworth? It's possible. Let's see. Is something wrong? Do you even have to ask? Sorry, Your Honor. There is indeed something drawn on the back of my list. It's the thing! What? What? Why is the blue badger there? That's that thing. That thing that was dancing in the evidence room. Clearly, this act of vandalism is the work of a certain chief of detectives. I guess he was out of scrap paper. Okay. So we have the full evidence list now. Very well. Witness, will you please testify about this picture you drew 2 years ago?
Huh? Oh, yes, sir, Your Honor.
What's wrong with Emma? She seemed to be thinking about something when she was looking at the picture. Okay, I'll take a look at that picture once we get through Emma's testimony again.
This is the picture I drew 2 years ago. The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. After that, I must have fainted. This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant.
To think a flash of lightning could burn such an image in your mind. Thanks to that, though, she was able to show us exactly what she saw. Well, I don't see any contradictions here. This clearly shows Joe Dark about to murder prosecutor Neil Marshall. The defense may now begin its cross-examination. Okay, not really a whole lot to go off of. But again, Emma wouldn't knowingly lie. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a full look as to the evidence list here. Okay, so I can't actually turn it around, so... weirdly enough... So we have the blue badger there. And the scene that... Wait a minute. Wait. Okay, when I saw the blue badger and the 3 prongs, I had a feeling maybe there was something up with it. I think I might know what that is. Is it the jar? Because, I mean, if you put the jar like this or something like that, it would have the 3 prongs that you would see on the blue badger. And if it was something like this, or something of the sort, you know, rotated enough, it could be like it was perhaps falling? Was the vase falling? I think it does. It kind of looks like it. I mean, yeah, that's obviously, like... I think the blue badger is meant as a red herring. I think of the vase was falling. I think that's what it is. And because the vase is there... Wait! Wait. So... Hold on. The suit of armor is on Gant's side of the office, not Lana's side. If the vase was falling at that time, then then that would be on Gant's side of the office. But if that's the case, why is there so much blood on Lana's side of the office? I get the feeling that's where they're going with this? Let's press on Emma's things first. Did you draw this picture right after the incident?
I think I drew it 2 or 3 days later. At first, I was in such a state of shock that I couldn't do anything.
During that time, the investigation team was reorganized. Detective Goodman was placed in charge, under the direction of Damon Gant and Lana Skye. 2 or 3 days later, the memory should still have been fresh in her mind. Excuse me, witness. But can you please tell us why this picture is painted all black? The flash of lightning was so bright, all I could see were shadows. So at the time, you didn't even know it was Mr. Marshall who had come to your rescue.
No, I couldn't see him clearly. The lightning was so bright. I was knocked to the floor. Oh, and I was knocked to the floor.
You were knocked to the floor?
Dark had a tight grip on me, but when Mr. Marshall jumped on him, I was knocked away. I turned around, and that's when the lightning flashed.
Poor Emma. I'm just glad she wasn't hurt. What happened after the lightning flashed? After that, I must have fainted. You mean you didn't see an actual murder take place?
No, I'm sorry.
The flash of lightning only drove off the darkness for a split second. Not only that, but the trauma of the situation understandably caused the witness to faint. Do you really need to torture this girl any further? What? Hey, I'm not the bad guy here!
Anyway, this picture.
This picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. Okay, and it actually just zooms in on that naturally. Sorry for asking so many times, but are you sure you drew exactly what you saw?
Of course! This is the exact scene!
It wasn't influenced in any way from your talks with the detectives. Are you insinuating we somehow manipulated her memory, Mr. Wright? No, of course not! I'd better watch out or he might find some way to cut my salary.
I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detectives, so I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me.
Mr. Wright, is there something that's bothering you about this picture? Huh? Oh, well, that's strange. She claims this is exactly a scene that was imprinted in her mind. And yet, there's clearly a contradiction here. Okay. So the picture shows exactly what I saw in that instant. So what would be the contradiction then? It only really zooms in on that. I don't think it would be the evidence list. I'm going to go ahead and make a quick save real quick. That way, in case I screw up so many times, I can come back. Shows exactly what I saw in that instant. So what's the contradiction? Was it influenced in any way? So it wasn't influenced in any way. I drew the picture before I heard anything from the detectives. Something that's bothering you. She claims this is exactly a scene that was imprinted, and yet there's clearly a contradiction. So then, what's the contradiction? What is it that Stabbed in the back, died from a punctured heart and lung. A knife tip was found. Single stab wound. Died from blood loss in under 10 minutes. Found in wound was a missing tip. I'm wondering, is it because of the autopsy report? Unfortunately, So I'm trying to think, because with the knife like that, would he really just go straight into the chest like that? Or is it because somehow it's intentionally just kind of blocking my view of the top portion? That's what I'm trying to get at. What is the contradiction that they're trying to get me to see? Or is it the blue? Because the thing is that there's so many things that it could potentially be that the game's trying to get me to do. It could be the knife. I don't think it's necessarily the picture of Neil there. Because while I think that the blue badger symbol is actually the vase, that hasn't been established yet. And that's only my thought on it. So that can't be it. So we're either talking about the blue badger, or the autopsy report, or the actual list. Possibly the knife. No, I don't think it would be the knife. The knife, while it says missing a tip, there's nothing really contradicting that with Emma's picture. The big question is just the blue badger symbol. Allegedly dancing in the evidence room at the time of the murder of the PD. So the thing is that why is it that? There's also the piece of cloth here that has Emma's prints on it. Clear handprint can be seen on the leather cloth. The print belongs to Emma. There's nothing on the back. Okay. So, I mean, there's a lot of different things that I could do. I don't think the vase is anything important yet. I don't think it's the vase, and I don't think it's the picture. Because I need to somehow, if my assumption is correct, then I would need to be able to place this picture in front of Gant's office. And this picture doesn't exactly prove that. It could be the evidence list, but the evidence list, I mean, just shows the picture itself. There's also the piece of cloth here, which I'm guessing is from Marshall, because I don't think it would necessarily be Dark's clothing. Or there's the autopsy report, where he was stabbed in the back and died from a punctured heart and lung. I mean, I've got to do something, obviously, but I'm not entirely sure what it is that the game's trying to get me to do. Is it the autopsy report? Is it the picture here? Or is it the piece of cloth? Because the piece of cloth would assume that Emma had clearly put a hand on Neil. But, I mean, that might not necessarily contradict anything because, the problem is trying to find what contradicts. Exactly what I saw in that instant. What exactly is contradictory about this incident with this picture? What is the contradiction that is in this picture? That is what I need to find. Someone is looking up at someone else and they are being stabbed. That's the thing that I'm still not getting. So it wasn't influenced in any way by the detectives. I drew this picture before I heard anything from the detective, so I don't think anyone's story would have influenced me. This is exactly the scene that was imprinted. I really hate that Phoenix says there's clearly a contradiction, and yet it's like, I can't tell. But this is definitely what it is that they're trying to get me. This is the contradiction. I just need to present something that actually contradicts the picture. So what contradicts this photograph? If that's the whole scene, because yeah, I'm thinking, is it the autopsy report? Is it the blue badger itself? Is it the cloth? I'm thinking maybe the blue badger? Because the blue badger is a recent mascot, and why exactly would she draw something that looks like a recent mascot? I mean, the problem that I'm having is that all these seem to be viable, and I have no idea how to actually eliminate this sort of thing. Yeah, because I don't think the autopsy report necessarily contradicts it. I mean, assuming that's Neil on the ground, I mean, he was just punctured once. He was stabbed once. The tip was broken off. And even though, like, it's just a rectangle there, I don't think that necessarily proves that, like, the knife tip was gone. And that's the thing. I want to say that that's the vase, but I think I'm getting ahead of myself on that. That's assuming that what I'm thinking is right. Actually, it might be the autopsy report. I'm focusing on a puncture of the heart and lung, single stab wound. But this says he was stabbed in the back. But here, it looks like he's being stabbed in the front. I think it is the autopsy report. The picture looks like Neil was stabbed in the front, but the autopsy report says he was stabbed in the back. I think that's it? I really hope that's it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but this picture the witness drew contains a blatant contradiction.
What? But I still remember it just like it was yesterday.
Mr. Wright, perhaps it would be faster if you simply pointed out this contradiction for us. What part of this picture contradicts the autopsy report? Oh, come on! The front here? It's the victim. The fact that he's being stabbed in what would be the chest area. Oh, it's not it. Damn it. Take a look at the autopsy report. Okay, let's try this. Ow. Okay, so it's the fact that it didn't have the tip there. The contradiction, of course, lies here. Take a look at the knife the man is holding. If you look closely, you can see its tip is broken. Even I don't have to look closely to see that, Mr. Wright.
But Mr. Wright, look at the evidence. See the murder weapon? Its tip is broken too.
If I recall, the tip of the knife was found broken off in the victim's body.
It was the conclusive piece of evidence that proved Joe Dark was the murderer.
I'm afraid it's not so simple, Emma. Objection! And where, pray tell, could you possibly see a problem? It's obvious, really.
The victim suffered a single stab wound to the back. If the victim was only stabbed once, then the murder weapon should not yet be broken. Oh! What is the meaning of this? Perhaps the knife was broken beforehand. Sorry, but I'm afraid that's not possible. The tip of the knife was found inside the victim's body. If it was broken beforehand, it couldn't possibly wind up there. That's right. But what does this mean? The tip of the knife was undeniably discovered within the victim's body. The only possible explanation is the witness's memory is mistaken. That's why I asked her so many times if she was sure she remembered correctly. I believe you were annoyed at the time, but she was sure she remembered correctly. But there's no other way to explain this inconsistency. Not so fast, Mr. Edgeworth. There is another explanation. Have you forgotten already? About a little something called falsified evidence? You're treading on thin ice, Wright? All I'm saying is that this broken knife tip might be the piece of evidence that was forged. You can't deny the possibility. No. Ah! Order! 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 Are you saying the investigation really was corrupted? Your Honor, please allow me to once again go over the events that took place the day of the murder. The police department and the prosecutor's office were holding a ceremony that day. After receiving the King of Prosecutors Award at the ceremony, Neil Marshall questioned Joe Dark along with Damon Gant. During his questioning, Joe Dark fled the room. Prosecutor Marshall chased after him and was killed by Dark. It is my belief that somewhere in this story, there is a lie. I'm not lying. The man really was holding up a broken knife. If that's true, then there's no other way around it. This could not have been the actual murder weapon. There must have been another broken knife. What are the chances of there being two broken knives? Another broken knife besides Joe Dark's. Could there have been one? Absolutely! There is absolutely another broken knife. If the witness is this adamant about the accuracy of what she saw, it can't just be explained away by a simple observational error. Mr. Wright? In that instant, Emma really did see a broken knife. I assume, then, that you have some information about this other broken knife? If so, please feel free to enlighten us. The murder weapon was already broken prior to the murder. There's only one way. Take a look at this. Here is the real murder weapon. The King of Prosecutors trophy. If anything's broken here, it's you. Huh? I'm sure this must all be very amusing to you, Mr. Wright. Oh, come on! That is the actual murder weapon! Fine, I guess it's the picture then. The answer lies in the past. 2 years in the past. Right here inside this picture. This is a picture of the awards ceremony. What is it, Mr. Edgeworth? It's the broken murder weapon! Notice the award Prosecutor Marshall is holding. That's a broken knife!
As we earlier concluded, the knife in the drawing was not Joe Dark's knife. That being the case, the knife the witness saw was in all likelihood from this award. Order! 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 Neil Marshall was awarded King of Prosecutors that day. As an award, he was given this broken shield and knife. When he chased after Joe Dark, he pulled out this knife. Being a prosecutor, he did not carry a pistol. This broken knife was the only weapon he had in this dangerous situation. But that can't be! Oh, and why not, Mr. Edgeworth? Because if the King of Prosecutors award knife was the murder weapon, then the murderer and the victim would be reversed. What do you mean? I mean, this man raising a knife would have to have been Prosecutor Neil Marshall. Oh. Oh! But the prosecutor was the one who actually died. That's true. What's going on here? It seems Mr. Wright has been a bit too eager to jump to conclusions.
Wait! I remember now. I remember everything!
Witness?
Mr. Edgeworth,
What is it?
could you show me your evidence list again, please?
His list? The one with the picture scribbled on the back?
I knew it! This picture, I'm the one who drew it.
What? You drew that?
That's right. The list wasn't torn in half at the time I drew this picture. All this time, I've been trying so hard to forget. I must have locked this part away deep inside me.
Perhaps it would be best if we added this to the witness's testimony. Would you please tell us what you've recalled, Miss Skye?
Yes, Your Honor.
First the knife mix-up, and now the blue badger? This should be interesting.